Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. And coming back at you with another mini dose. I just like to say it, guys, okay? I just like to talk about that they're named mini doses because I think it's creative. I've got, RX in my podcast name, and then the mini dose, it's like mini sode, but you just flip the D and the S and you make mini dose and it's like a little pill. I don't know. It's cute. Hopefully you guys have like heard me say it before and thought, "Oh my god, mini dose, that's so creative." And so if you have, give me a comment cuz I love you for that. But if not, I'm happy I pointed it out to you. So, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. You know what? Actually, kind of does. Today, I'm answering a question that I found online because none of you bitches have asked me a question yet, but one day it'll happen. Um, and it has to do with getting out of your comfort zone. And I mean, doing this podcast, I'm on season 3, but it's still out of my comfort zone in some ways. And it's so weird to record yourself talking and hope that you're giving things that people want to listen to. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to be talking about getting out of your comfort zone. We have a beautiful question from someone online, and it says, "How to push myself out of my comfort zone? I feel like I'm way too comfortable with my current life, which isn't really a bad thing, but I feel like it's holding me back. I have an associate's degree, which is cool and all, but I'm still at my gas station job that I've been at for almost 3 years. I'm low key scared of having a big girl job. I also still don't have a license, and first I thought my anxiety was holding me back, but now I think it's because I don't care enough. My parents basically forced me to drive when I was 18, and after about a year, I took my test and failed, so I gave up. Now I feel like I just don't care to start again. I don't know. I feel like I just need someone to tell me to get the fuck up and do better because I know I can and I know that I need to." Okay, so I think this question is so beautiful because there was a couple of things addressed in it, which one was, okay, I thought this was my anxiety, and I don't know, maybe it's just I'm lazy, which I think is so common when we're feeling a little bit stagnant or struggling to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. And then the other piece is, talking about this desire, this acknowledgement. Like, I know that I need to get out of this rut, and I know that I can, and I can have more in my life. It's just a matter of actually getting out and doing it. So, hopefully, this is like resonating with some of you guys. I mean, not hopefully, I don't wish any of you to be stagnant, but I think this is so universal. We all have felt this at certain times. And a lot of the times, even when we feel, we're going out there and doing great things and we're really happy with our life, usually there is like a comfort zone edge that we still have things on the other side of that edge that we want to push towards. So I think this is a super applicable, really beautifully worded question. And the first thing that stands out to me is that sometimes the way that we're raised can inhibit, you know, what we're able to do or what we feel capable of once we grow up. So, if you're raised in a household with really strict parents, really controlling parents, sometimes you might not learn the skills that are needed. Responsibilities were kind of handled for you, or you were told exactly what to do, that some of the more developmental skills, like being able to prioritize and discern what is your responsibility and when you need to get it done and how to get it done and kind of self start and motivate, was almost taken from you, based off of your parents and what responsibilities they kind of handled on your behalf. This isn't to like villainize parenting, but I think that it's an important part of the equation when we can be struggling with these things and thinking like, why is this so hard? This doesn't seem so hard for other people or friends of mine. To just kind of take into the picture, like, what were you raised with? And were these things that you were taught, or are they things that you're kind of learning now? And luckily, it's never too late to learn, so that's not a problem. We can always change this. But I think it's a part of the equation. And on the other side, having really permissive parents, or overly helpful parents can also result in some of this difficulty once we reach adulthood and we're like, wait, how do I do any of this? Like, my mom was always helping me with my projects or telling me, what assignments were due, or just kind of letting me slack and lounge and like not really pushing me. That can be some of the overly permissive, that can be well intentioned, but ultimately not helpful in helping us really like develop these skills. Sometimes this can also lead to like functioning almost as like a grown up child or adolescent, and we can feel like we're kind of faking it. Like everybody else knows how to be an adult and how to make all these things happen in their life, and we don't. We're just faking it, or we don't even know where to start, and it can lead to this feeling of like imposter syndrome or inadequacy. Like, why do I feel like this like adult baby, and it seems like everybody else is an actual real life adult? So one of the things with this is like a perception issue, which it's so much easier to perceive other people as having their shit together when you're not like in their brain. So that's one part of it, is like just remind yourself, like looking from the outside, even if you're close with someone, you still don't know exactly what it's like in their experience. And most people feel like they're just like winging it and just like doing things and figuring out as they go. So to kind of step back from that and maybe, remove some of the comparison, because that's just going to lead to more stagnation and more like demoralizing or demotivating thoughts when you feel like you're already so behind and everybody else has all these amazing skills that you don't have and you don't know how to get. Like, that's going to be really demoralizing. Because whether this is comfort zone, like going to go eat alone, or switching jobs or careers, like something small to something really big, whatever it is, when we're doing something for the first time, we are a novice at it. We are a newbie. And being a newbie, being a beginner, is such a specific feeling, and there's really no way around it. And if we spend so much time and energy avoiding that newbie feeling, then we're never going to be able to start anything. We're never going to be able to push that comfort zone if we're just avoiding being a beginner, because being a beginner is a unavoidable part of the process. So, my thoughts on answering this question on like, okay, how do I do this? How do I get out of my comfort zone? My first thought is tap into that desire. That part, like in this person's question, when they say like, I just feel like I need to do better. I know that I can. I know that I should do that. Underlying that is some kind of desire, some yearning for something more, which is great. Because, if you're asking questions like this is a great sign. That means you are yearning for something that you don't yet have, but you absolutely can make a reality. And you can do that by tapping into that energy. And I keep pointing to my heart for anybody that's listening. I'm pointing to my heart and I'm kind of tapping on this place in our chest, because that's really where that desire lives. And something that can be so motivating is really feeling into the bodily experience of imagining, visualizing, creating this rich mental image of what that life that we want, that more, that better, that we desire, that we know we can have, what it looks like. Getting really detailed. What is this image in your head? What lies on the other side of your comfort zone? Do you know what it is that you want to be doing that you aren't already doing? And if you don't, how can you find out? How can you discover that? Luckily, we live in an age where there's so many books and videos and blog posts and ways to look at what other people are doing and to listen to their experience and to explore all these different avenues and tap in, reconnect to that bodily sensation and say, does this excite me? Does this feel fun? Does this feel enticing? Or does it not? Does it not resonate? Maybe that path isn't for me. So we can really go out and info gather, ask people about their life, ask people what they do, ask people how they spend their time, what their hobbies are, and listen in for the things that really like make your ears perk up. An example is like, it became very clear to me that counseling was a good path for me to go down when I took a course on intro to psychotherapy, and like watching therapy videos was like reality TV to me. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, this is so cool to me. I think I've talked about this before on the podcast because it was so like distinct. Like, there is something inside of me for whatever reason that resonates so deeply with this, where other people are kind of like, yeah, I mean, sure, but I don't care. It's not for me. And, if I think about like if I ever was to make a career change, there's other careers that people have talked about where I'm like, oh my God, I want to know more. Like, when people are in the healthcare field and are nurses or doctors, hearing about their day-to-day job, I'm like, wow, that's really, really interesting. Versus when I hear people talk about, working in tech. No shame, don't like no shade on that job. Love ya if you love it, but it doesn't really get my heart pumping in the same way. We all have this innate understanding. Like, even if you feel like you don't, that might just be a case of not having really tapped in and listened to this bodily response yet. Because, an easy way to start to connect to this part is listening to music. We all have that song that we could just listen to over and over and over again and sing at the top of our lungs, and it just makes us feel some way. And then there's other music where we're like, no, this is good. This is good, but it's like, it's not my favorite. Doesn't mean it's not good, but I don't know. There's just something intangible. It's just not my favorite. That's the system that we tap into when we're really going after our desires and learning what it is that we really want. And why I've spent so much time talking about this is that when we know what it is that we want, then we're able to more clearly connect to what we have to do to get there. So we can ask ourselves, what would this version of me, this when we create this mental image of what we want our life to look like, what lies on the other side of our comfort zone, we can ask, what would this version of me do? What would they choose? Would they sleep in, or would they get up an hour before work to go try that new workout class? The answer is going to be different for everybody. Some people, the answer might be sleeping in. Maybe they already go and work out, and what they're being called to do that's outside of their comfort zone is to rest. When we start from this bottom up, from this bodily sensation, not only is it motivating because we can feel the excitement of this future self, but we can also ask from that place, okay, what would this version of me do? And it really doesn't have to be anything huge. It's actually usually better if it's not something huge, if we take these small steps, because it's less overwhelming. In each small step is going to be very personally defined. I remember like a while back when there was the that girl trend, which I really despised because it created this image of like what that girl does and kind of became really prescriptive on, well, she journals and she wakes up early and drinks celery water and goes to Pilates and blah, 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 blah. And while some of those behaviors can be really like helpful or good or feel nice, they might not to everybody. They definitely won't to everybody. It was kind of disconnecting us. We have this tendency to create these really prescriptive um, ways of being. This is also kind of part of why I ironically called my podcast the Evergreen RX. Your prescription for living well is what I think is really important is less on anchoring into what other people's prescriptions are, even if it's researched and it's, scientifically proven that this thing can make you 10 times happier or this thing can motivate you. I just think that where we derive the most drive and motivation and joy and contentment is through our own prescription, through our own felt experience of what really resonates for us. So maybe you have this vision and you know some of the steps, and maybe you're still struggling and you're noticing blocks. Talk to a therapist if you need to, talk to a friend, enlist support, people that can motivate you and be kind of your cheerleader while you're trying these new things. Even if it's the smallest step, sometimes it can be really helpful to have an external place where someone is supporting you and motivating you in these goals while you're working on getting that motivation up to do it internally, to be your own internal cheerleader. There's nothing wrong with having support. You can also titrate the newness. So go out and try something that pushes your comfort zone, pushes that boundary a little bit, and then go home and do something comfortable. Do something familiar, do something that feels really good to you and is easy to do. So it doesn't have to all be all new all at once. And remember, we ultimately are responsible for the choices that we make. So maybe you grew up where choices were made for you, and you never learned to ask yourself these questions. you always have the opportunity to start and to take responsibility for your choices and for the life that you want to create. Whatever choices you're making now, even if they're non choices and just staying the same or not making decisions, that is creating the life that you have. So asking yourself, what are the choices I do want to make that move me closer to the life that I desire? There is real empowerment in responsibility, even if responsibility sometimes can be hard at first because it means taking responsibility for all the choices that we haven't made or for the ways that we have felt stuck and felt stagnant. But the first step into getting unstagnant, is taking responsibility for the fact that we are stuck and then making the next choice that moves us closer to the life that we desire. So, hopefully, if you were kind of relating to this listener, this online question that I found, and you are seeking some guidance on how to get out of your comfort zone, maybe you got something to take with you. Yeah, if you have more questions, always reach out to me. You can reach out to me on TikTok or Instagram, or I think even below this podcast, at least on Spotify. You can ask questions. I'm here. I want to hear from you. And if you liked this, please share it with a friend. Give me a rating. That helps so much. I appreciate all of you, every single one of you that has me coming through your speaker or your headphones. And I'll be back with you next week with another great Minidose episode. All right, I'm wishing you the best. Good luck. Bye.